This is BBC One, with a little help from Chopin.
Welcome to Just a Minute. And once again, it is my pleasure to welcome four delightful guests who are going to take part today in this fun-filled entertainment we call Just a Minute. Let us welcome, first of all, that wonderful, delightful comedian, Linda Smith, and beside her, the all-singing, all-dancing Gary Wilmot, and on my left, that very talented and distinguished actress, Isla Blair, and beside her, a broadcaster, writer, Gyles Brandreth. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask my guests to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviating from the subject. They're all on the cards in front of me, and we're going to begin the show today with Linda Smith. And who better? Linda, the subject, oh, lovely one, Shrinking Violet. Can you tell us something about Shrinking Violet in this game, starting now?
Shrinking Violet. She sounds to me like some rather quaint English comic book superheroine. By day, an elderly librarian, but at night, with one swig of sweet sherry, and she becomes the incredible Shrinking Violet, squeezing like a tiny mouse through the mesh of post office counters and solving postal order crime as it's never been solved before.
And who is
brilliant? It was brilliant.
Yes.
Thank you. That was very kind, whoever interrupted me.
It was brilliant, but I sensed there was a creeping
Sorry.
hesitation, gradually overwhelming what was otherwise an Oscar-winning performance.
We interpret that as hesitation, Gyles. And so, Gyles Brandreth has a correct challenge. He gets a point for that. He takes over the subject, and there are 38 seconds available, Gyles, starting now.
I am a personal friend of that delightful actress, Bonnie Langford, whose performance as Violet Elizabeth Bott many felt should have been shrunk, if not drowned, at birth. This is a great slur on this wonderful artiste, because indeed the performance she gave as the Shrinking Violet was remarkable. To have seen Lady Violet Bonham Carter, or indeed Violet Trefusis, who was a writer from the 1930s, and one of those Shrinking Violets whose letters actually were written on violet-coloured notepaper. She was a friend of Virginia Woolf, and together they got up to the sort of things that at lunchtime we don't wish to hear about. More sort of Channel 4 than the BBC, I have to tell you.
Well done, Gyles, yes. Whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point on this occasion. It was Gyles Brandreth who kept going on Shrinking Violet for 38 seconds. That's a fine achievement, Gyles. It's a tough game, you know this. And by the way, they can repeat not only the word on the card, but the words independently if it's a phrase like Shrinking Violet. So at the end of the round, you won't be surprised to discover that Gyles Brandreth has a lead over all the others. In fact, he's the only one to get any points. Gary Wilmot, please take the next round. The subject, Lloyds. Take it any way you like, 60 seconds, starting now.
There are many different kinds of Lloyds. Indeed, there's Harold Lloyd, that wonderful actor who was one of the highest paid comedy performers in the movies back in the 20s. There are other Lloyds as well. There's Lloyds the...
Linda, you challenge.
That was just a mercy challenge.
I think he was struggling a little there, yes. Well, Gary hasn't played it quite as much as you, Linda, but he did jolly well. He started, and he kept going for, well, he kept going for a little while. Linda, there are 46 seconds available. You've got a point for a correct challenge, and it is Lloyds starting now.
Of course, Lloyds is also short for the Cockney rhyming slang, Emily Lloyds, as in Nicholas saying to me, oh, my Emily Lloyds are playing up a bit today. But...
Yes,
it was terribly droll, but a repetition of Emily.
Oh, yeah.
I'm afraid so, yes, to get your gags over. The trouble is, in comedy, you often repeat for emphasis, but it doesn't work for just a minute. Gyles, another correct challenge, another point to you, 36 seconds on Lloyds, starting now.
I remember Prince Philip once saying to me that name-dropping is very vulgar and should be avoided, Gyles. But I must tell you about Lord Lloyd, who tried to mend the electric light. it struck him dead, and serve him right. It is the business of the wealthy man to give employment to the artisan. Now, he was a Lloyd from the aristocracy, whereas Hugh Lloyd, at the other end of the scale, is a little man with a big talent who comes from the beautiful city of Chester. I also, of course, admired, as well as Harold Lloyd, Selwyn Lloyd, Chancellor of the Exchequer in the 1950s, and a successor to so many other distinguished people who have held that office.
It's success time for Gyles Brandreth, isn't it?
I knew he'd be good at this. I just knew it.
Peaking early. Peaking early.
We don't know.
I only knew one Lloyd, and that was Harold Lloyd. I didn't know the other Lloyd.
Well, you did very well with
What
him.
chance have I got with
You'll get your chance later, don't worry, Gary. Let us go now to Isla Blair, and how lovely to hear from you now, Isla, at last.
At last.
Dear old friends. That's a lovely subject. Talk on it if you can. 60 seconds starting now.
I've got some dear old friends that live in my wardrobe. Warm, snuggly jumpers, slinky dresses that I can't possibly get into, they're so old. A particular favourite of the dear old friends is a black buttonless jacket that's beautifully cut, but I've had it such a long time that there's a hole under the arm and it's got frayed cuffs. Other dear old friends are at the bottom of my cupboard. Sandals, shoes, boots that I bought for £5 at a market in Birmingham. For some reason, two furry dear old friends, my cats, Sasha and Suni, like to sleep on these items of footwear, which I find very bewildering, because it must be so uncomfortable. Other dear old friends can also be people, men and women you've known all your life, and who take you for all your faults and foibles and forgive you just about everything. It's lovely on a winter evening sitting round a fire with a glass of wine, reminiscing and chatting with great nostalgia and love about everything. Help me, somebody.
I don't want to help you.
I don't want to help you. It was
Blow
brilliant.
the whistle. Blow the whistle. You went for...
Wow.
This was actually late by my clock in front of me. Yes, you went for 57
I
seconds
can't-
and then you
Did I
pleaded
really?
for help.
Oh, it was brilliant.
So they were very generous. They let you have the other 3 seconds
Yeah.
as a bonus.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Wow.
Honestly, to come on the show with such little a practice at the game. Oh, that was really great. And not only does she get a point for speaking when the whistle should have gone, but also she gets a bonus point for not being interrupted throughout. So you have 2 points. What a lot of hard
What
work for 2
generosity.
points. Gyles, we're with you to start, and the subject is censorship. I'm sure you know something about that. I'm sure in the days of when you were in the House you would speak on the subject, but talk in just a minute on censorship if you can, starting now.
I happen to know a great deal about censorship because 25 years ago I was, for a brief while, a member of Lord Longford's team investigating pornography. The noble Earl set up a commission, and I still have the raincoat I bought at the time, to inquire into these sordid matters. On this group there was, as well as him, a bishop, an archbishop, a rabbi, Malcolm Muggeridge and Cliff Richard, just to mention the younger people who were involved. We went over to Copenhagen in order to see censorship at first hand, and were very shocked by what we discovered, because there censorship does not exist. Anything goes. And I have to say that I saw the belted nobleman embrace a totally naked woman and not notice it. She was unclothed, but his mind was on higher, more spiritual matters. And I have to say that censorship, therefore, is in the eye of the beholder. So if you are a clean, living, wholesome type, then it won't upset you. But if you are, in fact, a closet, dirty old man, and looking at you, Nicholas, but not thinking about you, then censorship for you is necessary. Of course,
Well, that rarely happens in just a minute. 2 complete rounds in one show. And not only
What a
that,
team.
in succession.
we're a team.
Well, my goodness me. And Gyles Brandreth, not only speaking with the whistle and getting that extra point, but also a bonus point for not being interrupted. Gyles, you've increased your lead at the end of the round. Back with Linda Smith. Can you go for 60 seconds now and make it a complete
Very much
record?
doubt it.
Right. Geisha girls. There's something exciting to talk about, Linda. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Geisha girls. Well, geisha girls are basically an ancient Japanese version of the Spice Girls, but rather different to those particular girls of whom I speak. They can actually play instruments and sing a bit. Now, instead of being called things like posh and scary and sporty and baby, geishas are called things like makes a nice cup of tea and sits on the rug and wears a kimono and has knitting needles in her hair. That sort of thing, much more appealing, I think. And geisha girls often give a wrong impression to the world. A lot of Western businessmen thinking, oh, hello, we're on tonight with geisha girls, but all they get is a cup of tea and it costs them £500. It must be very disappointing.
You almost got that.
I'm
You
sorry.
went for 37 seconds, and what was your challenge?
Well, it was a
Shot?
repetition of cup of tea.
It was a cup of tea, yes. There were too
It
many
was
cups
also,
of
if
tea.
I may say so, a slur on the wonderful Spice Girls, the most talented. No, who are wonderful. They are beautiful and they are brilliant.
If you say so, Giles.
I do.
This audience, Dickens, they had a very strange reaction to your compliment about the Spice Girls.
Mixed feelings, I know, but that's because some of them are against David Beckham.
Right, so correct challenge, Giles, and you have the subject of geisha girls, and there are 23 seconds available starting now.
Sex.
Well, challenge, yes. Hesitation.
I thought there was an intake of breath, which was...
There was an
Well,
intake of breath.
in order to speak these days, I'm breathing.
But Giles, you know, in just a minute, if you breathe for 2 seconds...
I have to tell you that when Isla Blair is nearby, heavy breathing is part of the course.
I can understand that, but there we are. But yes, well, listen, it was a full 2 seconds. He didn't speak, which is very unusual for Giles. I've known him film every 2 seconds of most people's time. Isla, you have the subject of geisha girls. You have a point, of course, for a correct challenge. You have 21 seconds starting now.
There was a subject in the paper, Geisha Girls, when they were actually tables for sushi. They lay there absolutely naked, and these businessmen were required to eat off them. They couldn't. They had to shower before.
A bit of a hesitation.
Yeah,
There was a
very
hesitation.
so.
No wonder after
Yes.
eating off the naked bodies of geisha girls.
Quite
Pause, yes, I'd be trembling, actually, not just shaking. Gary, nice to hear from you. You've got a correct challenge. You get a point for that. You've got geisha girls. Keep going for 8 seconds, starting now.
I personally think that one of the nicest things about geisha girls is the wonderful regalia they wear with that huge cummerbund around the middle of their waist. But
Right, yes. Gary Wilmot was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. He's equal with Isla Blair in second place. They're just leading Linda Smith, but they're both trailing Gyles, Brandreth, and Gary. Your turn to begin. The subject is singing in the rain. I'm sure Ian Mester thought of that specially for you. I'm sure you've sung it in your showstopper shows, haven't you?
no.
Why did you pause so long before you said no? You haven't done singing in the rain?
No, I
yeah?
haven't done singing. I would love to do the musical, but I can't
Yeah.
tap dance that well. I can do a little bit, but I can't tap dance.
Well,
Certainly I'm no Gene Kelly.
No, but you can sing as well as Gene Kelly.
Oh, thank
and
you
can
very
sing
much.
better than most. And singing in the rain is the subject. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Most people in this country want glorious sunshine every day. Well, when I wake up in the morning, I open my curtains and I look out, and I'm really pleased if I can see nothing but rain, because I put on my very best raincoat, I dash out into the road and I start singing and dancing, splashing up and down in the puddles, just like Gene Kelly in that glorious movie Singing in the Rain. Of course, when you do think of singing in the rain, very often you could think of Morecambe and Wise, who did that wonderful pastiche of that
And you've challenged Isla.
wonderful...
Repetition of wonderful.
Yes, you had too
Well, it
many
was
wonderful.
wonderful. Yeah, really wonderful.
And you kept going for 26 seconds, but Isla got in. There are 34 available. Singing in the rain, Isla, starting now.
I like singing in the rain, especially in a thunderstorm with lightning flashing everywhere and beautiful large drops of liquid falling on your face. The only problem about it is, when there's a lot of rain about, you look on the ground and lo and behold, the earth is moving. Worms, hate them. Can't stand the creatures, but I don't know whether they're coming out because they hear me singing in the rain, or if in fact they just want to...
Oh, it's a tough game. Oh,
it is.
I suppose. Hesitation.
I feel
9
so.
seconds. Another point to you and 9 seconds for Singing in the Rain, starting now.
I've been cherishing...
Who
Oh, excuse me! I will take it from Isla because she is beautiful, sensual, and an erotic frenzy in a black frock. But from over there, I'm sorry.
Well, that was charming, wasn't it?
Oh, was it Linda? I'm sorry.
Linda, you thought it was
I
Gary.
thought it was Gary. No. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I misunderstood.
Linda, come back.
I've never been told something like that.
No, I'm so sorry.
I agree about the hesitation.
Good
Giles is
grief.
taking a long time to get his breath together. And
Could you
so...
remind me of the subject? I forgot.
Of course, darling. I always remind everybody of the subject before they start. Right. There are... let me tell you the time. Oh, you've got only 7 seconds. Singing in the Rain, starting now.
Singing in the rain. Sorry,
You've
I
just challenged yourself.
I did hesitate, so I interrupted myself. Do I get an extra point?
I said... Well, she's actually... No, I mean, she's actually challenged herself.
Yeah.
And also, Linda, it was a correct challenge.
So,
No, I challenged her, but I'm psychic.
So if you challenge yourself, I hope they're not going to make a regular thing of this, and it's a correct challenge. I've got to give you a point for
Okay,
it.
then.
Yes, you did hesitate, Linda. So a point for that. She's got another point for hesitating.
about a second to go now. I suppose.
No. Only you've got 5.5 seconds available. Singing in the Rain with you, starting now.
Singing in the Rain, a marvellous and seminal motion picture which involved Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds and...
So Linda Smith was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. She's moved forward. She's now equal with Isla Blair, who begins the next round. Isla, the subject is big deal. Can you tell us something on that subject in this game, starting now?
You may think that coming on to Just a Minute to talk for 60 seconds is no big deal, but I'd have to tell you, you are wrong. People often wonder how actors learn lines, but that's not a big deal. No, it's very easy, especially when plays are written in verse. Shakespeare, for example, wrote an iambic pentameter, 5 strong beats to a line. Make me a willow cabin at your gate. No big deal. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Again, not a big deal. No, I won't quote the famous soliloquy from Hamlet.
Gary, you've
Just a
challenged.
little bit of a hesitation.
Oh,
I
hesitation,
know, she was
absolutely.
going with
yes,
such
yeah.
interest. Oh, such style there. 29 seconds you went for, so there's 31 left for you, Gary. Tell us something about big deal, starting now.
Well, I actually play a lot of football, and a big deal for me was when I was invited to Wembley to play in a charity game before a big cup final. It was indeed a big deal. I turned up at the ground about 11:30 in the morning, and we wasn't due to kick off until 2:30.
Giles, you challenge first.
It was a little bit of hesitation.
It was a hesitation, Giles. Another point to you for a correct challenge. Big deals with you, 16 seconds, starting now.
Between Dover and Ramsgate is a city called Big Deal. I call it that because it's an enormous place in my heart. It's actually quite small physically to look at, but if you look at the...
Yes, you've been challenged. What was your challenge? Deviation?
Yes, absolutely, deviation.
Because it's not called Big Deal, it's called
I
Deal.
was
Deal.
explaining why in my heart it's called Big Deal.
But your statement was, it's called Big Deal. It isn't, it's called Deal. That was a very clever challenge of yours, Gary. The way you went in straight like that. Deviation, yes. Well done. You've got him with 6 seconds to go on Big Deal, starting now.
I knew a little place just in Kent called Little Deal. It was a lovely, quaint village.
So Gary Wilmot was speaking as a whistle and gained an extra point for doing so. And what is the situation? Well, Isla and Linda equal in third place. Gary's just ahead of them. Just ahead of all of them is Gyles Brandreth, who begins the next round. The subject, Gyles' telephone numbers. Tell us something about those without reciting too many, I hope. Starting now.
I will never know how the producers of Just a Minute got hold of my telephone number, which is ex-directory. I'd gone away to Northern Ireland to get away from it all in order to finish my novel, because I'm a very slow reader. And there I was in the apartment that I'd hired for myself on the Falls Road when the telephone rang. I picked it up, and after I got through all the business of will you accept a transfer charge call from Pebble Mill, I found I was talking to none other than Nicholas Parsons.
He's right, there is a big deal in Kent.
But Gary, you were the one who challenged.
Yeah,
and
well,
I
I just
gave
thought
it
there
to
was
you.
a little deal, but there is a big deal. But let's not make a big deal of it.
You just embarrassed me because I suggested to you that you might challenge at that point. What have you interrupted his flow? So what happens
But just
now?
because that came to me, that was all.
Right.
I mean, do
Well, I'll
carry
tell
on.
you what we'll
Gyles.
do. We'll give Gary a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. Gyles, you get a point because you were interrupted.
Thank you very much.
And you keep going with the subject of telephone numbers. 40 seconds available starting now.
The area code for deal is 01273. Whether you go to that part of Kent or a different part really is immaterial. What matters...
Isla, why have you challenged?
You said to number, but I think on the card it's telephone numbers.
Oh, well, listen. That was very cleverly listened. So if you can listen cleverly or not, I don't know, but it was a clever challenge because the subject is telephone numbers, and he repeated number. So you have, Isla, 30 seconds to tell us something about telephone numbers, starting now.
You've got to be very careful who you give your telephone number to. And the friends that you have, you must be very careful not to give through.
Best sometimes to keep going. They either don't
Exactly.
notice it or they let you get away with
Yes.
it. But Gyles wouldn't let you get away with it.
No,
much anyway,
not after
so
that.
You've got in there, Gyles. You've got telephone numbers back. 22 seconds. Another point, of course, as well, starting now.
Nothing is more infuriating than calling somebody's numbers and finding, in fact, that they only have one number.
What you challenged again, Gary?
On the...
Yes, a repetition.
That was, yes. Repetition, yes.
Oh, this is so typical of this country. They don't like a winner, do they? They love a loser. That's what they like. Nicholas should know.
Now, what I want to know from this audience is, when they're rude to me, why do they clap as well? Yes, Linda.
Just leave it, Nicholas. You'll kill him. Honestly, just leave it. Just
Leave
walk
it, leave
away
it.
from it.
Walk away. All right,
It's
be
not
cool,
worth
really be cool. What a very clever challenge, Gary.
It was,
For someone who
wasn't it?
hasn't
Yes.
played the game very much, I thought that was very shrewd.
Well, there, you've either got it or you haven't. That's all right.
So, Gary, a correct challenge. Another point, of course. 15 seconds available on telephone numbers starting now.
I haven't a clue.
Isla, you've got it first, yes.
Hesitation.
Yes,
Yes,
right.
it was.
Yes. Well, we love having you here.
Yes,
13
it's lovely.
seconds, Isla, on telephone numbers starting now.
Telephone numbers of your friends must be kept to yourself because stalkers can get hold of them, and I've known one person who had a very bad problem with such a person who would make telephone calls in the middle of the night.
Actually, Gary, you challenged half a second before the whistle. What was it?
It was on Persons, a repetition
Yes,
of
you did
Persons.
repeat persons, I'm afraid.
Quite right.
Gary, you are getting the gist of this game.
I am,
You have
yes.
managed to get in with half a second to go
Well,
on
yes.
telephone numbers, and you start now.
One... Oh.
So Gary Wilmot, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He has leapt forward. He's only 1 point behind our leader, Gyles, Brandreth, and Linda Smith. Your turn to begin. 99 pence. Strange subject, but an interesting one to talk about. Start now.
99 pence is a figure that's added on to a more usual type of amount of money, say £5, to make it sound like not nearly £6, when in fact that is exactly what it is.
Isla, you're challenged.
Pounds, repetition.
Pounds, yes. It's difficult to describe something without repeating, isn't it? So, Lila, you've got in, and there are 50... No, they're not. There are 49 seconds available, and it is 99 pence. Start... Oh, I've hiccuped. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't drink fizzy water, should I? Isla, 99 pence, starting now.
I'm a complete sucker for sales. When I see the price cut down of anything, I feel really tempted to buy it. So when I see 99 pence...
Yes, Gary.
Repetition of C.
You were seeing too much there.
Oh, they're
was,
getting
you're
sharp,
right.
aren't they?
Yes,
Yes.
they really are. So, Gary, you've got in there. 40 seconds are available. Tell us something about 99 pence starting
I
now.
yearn for the days of...
Linda, you've got it. He's still yearning. He's still yearning. He goes. I could see you yearning. There, you
I
just
was
went off
yearning.
it.
I was there. I was
Yeah,
back
yes,
there. Yes.
So, Linda, you got him on hesitation on 36.5 seconds. 99 pence starting now.
99 pence, just 1 penny less than £1. There isn't a great deal that you can buy with that amount in this day and age when everything is so very costly and expensive. But when I was younger, you could buy an awful lot for 99 pence. It was an enormous fortune.
Gary, why have you challenged?
Enormous.
Yes. It wasn't enormous before.
There's two enormouses
Two
there.
Two
enormouses. You
enormouses.
can't be too enormous.
That's
Very
huge.
big. Huge.
Yes,
That's very
it's
huge.
But those other words don't come so quickly to mind when you're trying to keep going under the pressure. And with 3 bright sparks breathing down your neck, it's a tough game. Gary, you got the subject. You have got 18 seconds starting now.
I yearn for the days when we could have the old money back on.
Giles, yes.
I think a little hesitation there.
Yes, I think it was, yes. This
I
one-
should
this-
stop yearning, really, shouldn't I?
This is not quite your subject somehow. So, Giles, you have got 99 pence. You've got 14 seconds, starting now.
The cost of a call to deal is about 99 pence, depending, of course, on whether or not you have the correct telephone numbers. I happen to have them always about me, and the change, which is very useful. I'm a little bit worried, though, about the advent of the écu.
So, Giles Brandreth speaking as the whistle went, gained that all-important extra point, has increased his lead. He's ahead of Gary Wilmot, followed by Isla, Blair and Linda Smith in that order. And Linda, no, it isn't, Gary.
It's me,
Your
is it?
turn to begin. Yes, it's you. Cranks. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
I come out the stage door, and very often...
Yes.
And
you
yes,
heard
it
almost
was.
immediately.
I did, yeah.
What a pity.
But to
Yeah, I
err
know.
is human.
I know, but not...
You got to listen to
Lovely
her.
groan that got from the audience. But unfortunately, if you err in just a minute, it is hesitation. Isla got in first, and Isla, you've now got 57 seconds on Cranks, starting now.
Cranks is a restaurant, a whole food and vegetarian one, which opened in the late 60s. You'd often find bearded gentlemen with sandals sitting in there with very pale complexions. But nowadays, you see young executives, PR people.
Got in, yes, first. Hesitation.
Thank you.
no doubt. Another point, 41 seconds, Cranks, starting now.
It was indeed at this self-same eatery that I first encountered Isla Blair. I looked up across the nut rissoles and shredded carrot and thought to myself, well, better than beetroot is this gorgeous woman who is in herself a model of what the vegetarian diet can do. Bernard Shaw was a crank in his own way and would have enjoyed going to this place in order to consume the various rice dishes and...
Yes, Linda got in.
Just a touch of hesitation.
A touch of hesitation, enough to be called hesitation. Another point to Linda and the subject, and there are 18 seconds, Linda. Cranks, starting now.
That very same hostelry known as Cranks is to me not a very appealing one because I don't think grey is a very attractive colour for food, which everything in that place seems to be and has the texture of tweed.
And Isla, why have you challenged?
Deviation. It's absolutely the most colourful food you could possibly
Yes.
eat. There are carrots, there are beetroots, there
Absolutely.
are brown rice. It's...
But to her, it all came across as grey.
She was watching in black and white, that's the problem.
I mean, this
That's the game, is it?
I interpreted that as a sort of fantasy image. It all came across as rather grey to her. So I interpreted that they were trying to convey that it was a grey atmosphere and a grey ambience to the whole environment.
Absolutely,
So I
Nicholas.
agree with you, Linda. So that was an incorrect challenge. Another point to Linda. And there are 6 seconds available. Cranks with you, Linda, starting now.
Cranks are also people who are considered a bit bonkers, a bit sort of mad and strange. And...
Linda Smith, kept going till the whistle went and gave the extra point for doing so. She not only brought the round to an end, she's also brought the show to a close. We have no more time to play just a minute today. Let me give you the final situation. Well, very fair one. Isla Blair and Linda Smith came equal in third place, just behind Gary Wilmot, but 2 points ahead of him was Gyles Brandreth. So, Gyles, we say, you're the winner today.
I'm sorry about that.
It is the contribution they all make that makes the show so enjoyable and successful. So, my thanks to Linda Smith, Gary Wilmot, Isla Blair and Gyles Brandreth. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons. Hope you've enjoyed it. Be with us the next time we play Just a Minute. Till then, goodbye.